Albert Speer was the highest ranked among the Nazis in Nuremberg, and unlike others, he narrowly escaped the death sentence. The man hailed from Mannheim, where he was born, and after joining the military forces of Germany, he went on to become one of the trusted aides of Adolf Hitler. Speer was an exceptionally skilled architect, and he finally united with the Nazi Party, much later in 1931. However, despite this apparently late joining, he managed to scale new heights within a reasonably short period. Thanks to Hitler, he was appointed the General Building Inspector, where he primarily presided over Berlin. This role was strongly linked to the Central Resettlement Unit that primarily focused on the eviction of Jewish individuals from their Berlin-based homes. Over time, he also assumed the role of the Minister of Armaments, where he also monitored the war production and quality. Albert is often lauded for creating a revolution out of the war armaments. Following the war, he somehow succeeded in escaping a death sentence during the Nuremberg Trials. He, however, had to serve 2 decades in jail due to the war atrocities, with special emphasis on leveraging human slaves. In this video, we will focus on his early life, military career, and successful career trajectory that earned him multiple vital positions during World War II. If you enjoy this kind of videos, don't forget to give a like and subscribe for more future videos. With that, you also help the channel grow. Early life and career. Albert's early life is quite humble when compared to his successful military career. He primarily pursued his education across various technical schools located in Berlin and Karlsruhe, among others. In 1927, he finally earned a license for architectural assignments. This was a huge feat because during the initial years of his life he aspired to be a successful architect. In 1930, he got an opportunity to hear Hitler's speech at a random rally in Berlin. The speech inspired him to participate in Hitler's endeavor, which also led him to join the Nazi Party. He joined the party in 1931, and within a short time, Hitler was already impressed by his architectural feats. So, after Hitler assumed the role of the primary chancellor, he assigned the title of his personal architect to Albert. During this period, he received several awards and accolades along with a bunch of commissioned work. The most defining moment of his career was probably at the point when Hitler proposed to him a unique task to restructure the entire city of Berlin. Unfortunately, that plan never succeeded. However, Albert still got several opportunities to orchestrate and create the design of parades, war grounds, lampposts, and advanced searchlights. Such was his architectural prowess that he was even assigned the task of creating and designing the banners of the iconic Nuremberg Party Congress, 1934, which at the time was filmed and captured by Leni Riefenstahl. Much later in his life, Albert had written several memoirs very clearly stating that his political commitment simply involved paying monthly dues. At that time, he wanted to ascend in his architectural career and thus decided to join the new mission of the Nazi Party. Following the war, he claimed that his political interest was minimal and joining the Nazi Party was simply an act of chance. Career as the Minister of Armaments. As mentioned already, in 1942 Albert finally assumed the position of the Minister in charge of armaments. Although this role also involved the production of war, he was primarily assigned the task of designing and creating new armaments. Additionally, he also took the responsibility of monitoring the entire life cycle of armament production, where he assessed the raw materials, transported the products, and finally initiated and completed the process of industrial production. Given the importance of his title, Albert was increasingly excited to take up a new project and perform a true miracle for the armament project. Thanks to him, the production of war in Germany significantly increased. Unfortunately, the production suffered during 1943 due to constant bombing from the Allied military personnel. However, he soon caught pace by adding another surprising boom in the production of ammunition. Under his supervision, a significant amount of coal was allocated to various industries including steel. This helped in producing larger volumes of weapons at a significantly faster pace. By June 1944, the production of weapons was at its utmost peak. However, during the same time, Germany also witnessed a stark shortage in the amount of fuel production. Following 1944, the Romanian fields could no longer supply oil because the existing oil had been already depleted. The situation was so increasingly stark that the Germans could not properly initiate any form of offensive action. As stated earlier, Albert played a crucial role in sending weapons to the German army. Hitler was fully comfortable and confident with his expertise, and on the Führer's suggestion, he prioritized the production of tanks over anything else. At this period, he also enjoyed unparalleled power so that the mission became staggeringly successful. Hitler participated in the process and he closely monitored the meticulous details in designing a new tank. However, with time, he got fickle and came up with new specifications. This served as one of the biggest hindrances to the entire program, and Albert could no longer fix the situation. Because of the entire fiasco, the tank production project was ultimately unsuccessful. It did not receive an ample budget, and the tank quality was far from what was originally envisioned. This also caused the failure of the German army at the iconic Prahorivka battle. This was deemed a terrible defeat for the Germans against the face of the Soviet army. Speer was also appointed the primary leader of the organization Todt, where he played a key role in constructing and resettling concentration camps. He finally agreed to finalize the expansion of Auschwitz along with a bunch of other camps. The project was allocated 13.7 million Reichsmarks, which was a significant amount at the time. Thanks to this steady influx of capital, 300 more huts could be successfully built in Auschwitz, and the human capacity expanded by a whopping 132,000. The building works extensively involved the creation of morgues, large gas chambers, and dedicated crematoria. This was known as the special program of the iconic Professor Albert. Over time, he realized that with the majority of the German workers joining the army, he needed more manpower to drive his factories and missions. Thanks to his powering authority, Albert soon established a labor-centric system where the labor was primarily taken from the many resettled concentration camps. But even before this, Hitler agreed to assign a new dictator for manpower, and Fritz Sauckel assumed this role. Albert had an excellent collaboration with him, and he steadily helped address the labor demands. Sauckel also received complete authority from Hitler about taking a free hand when it comes to labor. This move was lauded by Albert, who, at the point, required 1,000 laborers who were willing to offer voluntary services in the armament factory. To support this dream, Sauckel took on the terrible task of moving people from huge villages across France and Belgium. After some point, they extended to the borders of Holland as well. The laborers, however, were not at all voluntarily interested in the task. They would be forcibly transferred to Germany through the cruelest and most gruesome techniques. After Germany ousted the Soviet army, random civilians including scores of men and ladies were collected in groups and forced to work in a German factory. In 1943, the mission was staggeringly successful, for Albert already had 1,500,000 plus laborers for his armament factory. As already discussed, the majority of the laborers were forced to perform tasks in factories, and they were continued to be kept as prisoners of war. In addition to unwilling civilians, Albert also occasionally took groups from the Jewish concentration camps and other camps available to him. Because of these atrocious acts, he was finally charged and convicted during the Nuremberg Trials. Role in armaments production. After he was appointed the position of armament minister, Albert fully controlled the production and access of armaments that were tailored for the army. Even though he was already enjoying a powerful position, he continued to seek greater control to produce armaments for two key areas. Luftwaffe. Kriegsmarine. By the end of 1943, he further expanded his power by controlling the economics ministry. At this time, he was also touted as the dictator of Europe's economy. Finally, he also witnessed a formal title change much later in November, when Hitler assigned him the new title of Reich Minister for Armaments and War Production. At this point, he also started looking at other spheres in the German army, like Germany's navy prowess. He specially chose Otto Mercer to create a unique submarine, and both believed that it would revolutionize the naval industry. Unfortunately, this feat seemed to be unsuccessful because both the submarines had multiple facilities at different units as opposed to a single and dedicated dockyard. Unfortunately, several submarines were built under the same model, but they never came to be used because of the same fatal flaw. In the final month of 1943, Albert finally visited Todt once again. However, during the journey, he somehow injured his knees and could not serve his functions for a couple of months. In the following month, he suffered another major lung ailment and experienced a long bout of illness. However, he was extremely concerned about his power and thus chose not to designate a deputy for the functions. He performed all his responsibilities from bed. Unfortunately, his illness also served the worst time for Germans because the Allies were constantly bombing the Germans at that time. Sadly, for Albert, he has several political rivals who didn't waste this chance to undermine or disrespect him. This affected his relationship with Hitler, and he lost his constant support and power over the coming months. By April 1944, he completely lost his power over Todt. However, despite the apparent disrespect, Albert was loyal to Hitler and wholeheartedly opposed the attempts of assassinating him. Even though he wasn't directly connected to the plot, he still played a small part to gain full control and power over Berlin following the Führer's survival. The biggest success of his technological and architectural career is perhaps best attributed to the iconic rocket program. This program was launched much back in 1932. However, it did not receive ample weaponry. However, despite this, Albert ardently focused on the program. Finally, after 10 years, 2 orders were placed for A-4 rockets. For the uninitiated, this was the first of its kind missile powered by a ballistic system, which was the V-2 rocket. These rockets as well as the V-1 bomb were extensively researched and studied in a separate facility by famed researchers of the time. The primary target of the V-2 rocket was to bomb Paris in 1944. However, despite being promising, the program couldn't be afforded or supported given the current economy of war. Despite the massive investment, the military seemed to be ineffective at their jobs. Every rocket was crafted discreetly in an underground facility located at Mittelwerk. As with the other tasks, the laborers were pulled out from the concentration camps. Nuremberg Trials. Finally, during 1945 and 1946, at the time of the Nuremberg Trials, Albert expressed profound and genuine remorse for all the atrocities that the Nazis caused. However, he also denied having any first-hand information about the practice or policy of exterminating racial minorities, and most importantly, the Jewish folk. However, he was still convicted of several war crimes and had to serve a 20-year jail sentence in the Spandau prison located across the western corners of Berlin. From the trial until his death, Albert has written several memoirs and appeared in multiple interviews where he unabashedly and confidently asserted that he was clueless about the final solution involving the extermination of the Jews. However, in 1971, he admitted his presence at a 1943 conference where Heinrich Himmler publicly announced the plan of exterminating Jews. His part in the correspondence was finally revealed to the public in 2007.